character, the taste of success.
Like I said before, we better own the sin. Like I said before, we better own the sin.
You mentioned Iran.
India Today Group, the most awarded network at Ramnath Goenka Awards. Only network to win awards in investigative journalism across print, digital and broadcast. 3 awards, 3 reporters. The winners in civic journalism, print, digital are Shreya Chatterjee and Arvind Oja. The winner in investigative reporting broadcast is Shreya Chatterjee, India Today TV. And in investigative reporting, print, digital, aajtak.in. India Today Group, setting the gold standard in journalism. Always.
He's no longer acting like a girl. You'll get a request. Moving south in the Litani River. Sufficient action to address his No one is safe.
आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी के परिवार में लिएंडर पेस का एंट्री एक ऐतिहासिक है। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने खेल और खिलाड़ियों के लिए पिछले 12 वर्षों में जो काम किया है उससे प्रभावित होकर के, इंस्पायर्ड होकर के आज लिएंडर पेस हमारे बीच में भारतीय जनता पार्टी का मेंबरशिप लेकर के सदस्य बने हैं।
At a time when questions are being raised on shortcuts used by many to get to what they believe is the optimum weight for them, shortcuts involving use of medicines to lose weight, often unprescribed. Here is the story of a man who has managed successful remission of diabetes and has also kept his hypertension and his cancer at bay with sheer dedication and faith on improving lifestyle. Nitin Chandra, a 60-year-old IT professional, is a living testimony of how nature works like medicine and that improving your lifestyle can help you get to your health goals. On paper, diabetes is a lifelong disease, but for many, it does not have to be like that. From fat to fit, from diabetic to healthy, from sedentary to active, from mood swings to a state of happiness. No shortcuts, no overnight fixes. Just small changes done daily, powerful enough to rewrite a diagnosis. A reminder that while diabetes may be chronic, for some, remission is within reach with the right support and sustained efforts.
As reported earlier, can continue to strikes.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Whether civilians or UN. Backed terrorists.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Not by hides behind civilians. Fighting retaliation for their own propaganda.
Co-powered by Air India Premium Economy. Co-powered by the Tyron Airline.
LIC हर पल आपके साथ।
अपोलो टायर्स हर सफर में दम है।
A very good morning to all our viewers. You're watching First Up on India Today. I am Anjali Pandey. Our top focus continues to remain on the West Asia war. It's the second month of the war, the fifth week of the war. There's still no sign of this war ending anytime soon, although Donald Trump has hinted that it might end in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but there's still no clarity. We'll get you more updates on that, but before that, let's take a look at the headlines. Uncertainty over West Asia war. Hegseth meets soldiers in West Asia. Trump says will leave Iran within 2 to 3 weeks. Says no need for deal with Tehran to end this war. Will he announce the end to war in his address to nation tomorrow? Iran threatens to attack US companies. Google, Apple, Tesla are Tehran targets. Iran also mobilizes soldiers for defense. Iranian forces showcase military might.
War widens cracks within NATO. Allies raise red flags, denies use of its bases by US. Trump fumes, calls them unhelpful allies. Commercial LPG prices hiked by 195 rupees per 19 kg cylinder amid crisis. Prices of domestic LPG remains unchanged. And your air travel is set to get costlier. Jet fuel price doubled to rupees 2.07 lakh per kiloliter. Amid surge in global oil prices, jet fuel prices hiked. Malayalam director and producer Ranjit arrested on charges of sexual assault after a young actress filed a complaint. Filmmaker handed over to Kochi cops. And at the top of this hour, we're getting some breaking news. Donald Trump is all set to address the nation tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. That is the Indian time. He will be addressing the nation on this war. Remember, the cost of living is already exploding in the United States. Americans are already paying the price of Trump's war. So now all eyes are on Donald Trump's address to the nation amid this ongoing war tomorrow night at 9 p.m. ET and also 6:30 a.m. Indian time. President Trump will give an address to the nation to provide an important update on Iran. Now, what could be this important update? Is the war ending anytime soon? Will that announcement be made by Donald Trump? Or if there will be a ground invasion, the ground operations will begin, there will be an update on that. It remains to be seen. Only Donald Trump could tell that. He will be addressing the nation on this war tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. All eyes are now on Donald Trump's war, in which he will be providing important update on Iran. Is this war going to end? Because there's also a hint that Donald Trump has said that this will go on for 2 to 3 weeks, and after 2 to 3 weeks they will be leaving Iran. In fact, there's also another change in stance of United States. United States is saying that now, even if the Strait of Hormuz does not open, even if it remains shut, they will end this war. Donald Trump has also said that it is not necessary for Iran to strike a deal with the US for this war to end. Their only requirement in this war is to send Iran back to the Stone Ages, and that is what is only required. Amid that, now we're learning that Donald Trump will be addressing the nation at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. And now it remains to be seen if he will be announcing when this war could end, or if there will be a major escalation by the United States in this war. So with over a month into this conflict, the impacts are visible globally, but now there are finally signs of the Iran war ending. US President Donald Trump has said that America could be leaving Iran very soon, in about 2 to 3 weeks. This is a major change in stance by United States, as Strait of Hormuz does not seem to remain a bone of contention anymore. Donald Trump, during a press conference in the Oval Office, said that Washington is preparing to wind down the month-long war. Trump also said a deal with Tehran is not necessary to bring the conflict to an end. However, Trump asserted that the objective of the US campaign against Iran was to push them back to the Stone Age and dismantle their nuclear capabilities, which was achieved. Amid this big development, Trump will be addressing the nation on Iran on Thursday at 6:30 a.m. The announcement about the conflict has left the world speculating about future of this conflict in West Asia.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini, who sadly is no longer with us. And we had regime change already. We've knocked out one regime, then we knocked out the second regime. Now we have a group of people that are very different. They're much more reasonable, I think much less radicalized. We have had regime change. We're dealing with people that are much more rational, and it's amazing what we've done. Within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. As you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me?
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I think
weeks?
we're 2 or 3 weeks. We'll leave because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or you don't. They can drop it, or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today, I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. Got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. You know, their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. No, they don't have to make a deal with me. When we feel that they are, for a long period of time, put into the Stone Ages, and they won't be able to come up with a nuclear weapon, then we'll leave. Whether we have a deal or not, it's irrelevant. Now, it's possible that we'll have a deal because they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal. But in a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me, and that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again, because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are very radicalized people. They're very sick leaderships. We'll be leaving very soon, and if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there, and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens in the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it. We hit them hard. We got rid of a lot of the radicalized lunatics along the Strait.
And India Today Global's Pranay Upadhyay is now joining us from the war zone. He's joining us from Israel. Pranay, what do you think will be the shape of the ground operations that will be carried out by the US in Iran? And do you think that talks and diplomacy are completely off the table?
You're right. U.S. Department of War did authorize induction of some specialized troops in the region, especially like 82nd Airborne Division or U.S. Marine. But this clearly indicates, some limited rate, some special forces infantry operation, but not going for any full-scale invasion or some full-scale operation. Many analysts think that U.S. may carry some targeted operation in or around Kharg Island, or even on the coastline of Iran, so that they can establish some kind of dominance and free up the Strait of Hormuz and diminish the Iranian capacity or Iranian capability to target the Strait of Hormuz, to have the strategic leverage there. And in fact, U.S. A priority remains that the Strait of Hormuz should be open. But I don't think so that U.S. would want to go for any regime change by any military invasion or by kind of some military operation in the mainland of Iran and going to Tehran. I do not see this as a possibility here. But yeah, as far as the operation against Kharg Island or some of the island territories of Iran, I think United States would want to use it as a military leverage to bring Iran to negotiating table and make Iran agree or Iran accept the terms he has proposed.
Right. So, of course, the U.S. is eyeing the Kharg Island, but there's still no clarity how the ground operations, if it is going to happen, will look like. Pranay, do stay with us. So the West Asia war has now entered its second month, and the rhetoric on both sides is only getting sharper. From Washington, the message is clear. All options remain on the table. U.S. leadership has not ruled out ground operations, with signals that if Iran does not come to the table, the conflict could intensify further. At the same time, top U.S. officials are projecting confidence, claiming strategic gains, asserting that Iran's capabilities have been weakened, and reiterating that the conflict will end on America's terms. But Iran is hitting back with equal force, warning of retaliation. In a significant escalation, Iranian forces have also issued threats against multiple U.S. tech-linked facilities, warning of strikes from April 1st from 8 p.m. Tehran time, warning civilians to evacuate the surrounding areas. And on the ground, military coordination is also stepping up. The U.S. Central Command Chief has met top Israeli leadership, with both sides discussing the next phase of the operations. And even as diplomacy remains uncertain, Iran is showcasing its military strength, highlighting the scale of its ground forces and also paramilitary networks.
What did they threaten them with? BB guns? Or
Well, that's a
they don't have
question.
much left to threaten.
My question for you is, are you...
I don't know. I mean, what did they... You made a statement. What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Tell me, how did they threaten them?
Well, all I know is that they threatened him, sir.
What does that mean?
Fair enough.
He said something nasty?
Is the government in touch with these companies? Are you helping to backstop them?
You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat? Did they say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them? They're not. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon.
And let's now listen in to what Trump's top aide and U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth said about boots on the ground.
As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. The point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
And my colleague Pranay Upadhyay continues to stay with us from Tel Aviv in Israel. Pranay, what does Pete Hegseth's words indicate about Trump's war gambit? What does the Trump administration mean when it says that the next days of war will be decisive?
Clearly, if you see the latest statement of U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he said that we negotiate with bombs. So, definitely, U.S. want to have an aggressive posture against Iran, and in fact, U.S. want Iran to be decisively defeated. But this clearly indicates that this aggressive posture also include more military action, involvement of other countries as well. And in fact, if other countries do not come along with the United States, then there will be more intense strikes against Iran. And in fact, if you see the strategy of President Donald Trump here, he does not want to get involved in Iran for a long-term commitment, operation like Afghanistan or Iraq. But certainly he wants Iran to be defeated, or at least Iran to be brought to a point where he can claim victory, or he can tell his support base in United States before going to midterm election that he has achieved something which many other U.S. president could not achieve for long. Certainly, he does not want to go in Iran for a long period of commitment, and also his limited intention is to decapacitate Iran in terms of its military capabilities, in terms of its missile launch capabilities, and in fact its nuclear ambitions. So next few days could be decisive for this conflict, and the upcoming phase could be critical as far as this West Asia war is concerned, because both United States and Israel are giving indication that in coming days they can intensify strikes over Iran. On the other side, if you see that Iran also remains defiant, the missile launch capability, despite United States and Israel carrying out so many operations on Iran, targeting many facilities of Iran, Iran is still being able to hit back at various U.S. bases or countries, those who are hosting U.S. bases, and also they are able to hit back at Israel as well. So this remains a concern, and in fact the larger issue remains here that this situation, if not resolved, if not brought to some kind of a solution or a diplomatic understanding, this can leave this entire region more vulnerable and more unstable.
Absolutely. In fact, Pranay, Iran in the latest has claimed that US tech giants like Microsoft, Google, Intel and Boeing, and of course total of 18 American companies will now be legitimate targets if US and Israel continue to attack Iran. And we're also learning that give us more details on that.
And of firing.
This is a very serious threat. I must say that, if Iran would start targeting these tech giants, this will complicate situation further for President Donald Trump, because, these tech giants or these business giants or multinational companies of the United States, be it Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and many other companies for that matter, they are the economic engines of United States. And, there will be backlash, there will be, impact in United States as well if these business houses or these business entities get targeted in West Asia, because all these tech giants have their presence, their data centers, their establishment in GCC countries and various other countries of West Asia, including Israel. And as Iran has threatened that for every assassination, every strike, now these tech giants or these business entities of the United States should also be prepared for the Iranian strikes. So we have to see that how the United States react to these kind of attacks if Iran targets any of these business entities. And as far as the ground situation is concerned, I can tell you that in last 24 hours there have been over 600 missile alerts sounded across Israel. In fact, today the central part of Tel Aviv, or the central part of Israel, was largely on target, and we have seen a change of pattern in last 36 hours. And we have seen that how there has been coordinated attack by both Hezbollah and Iran in northern part of Israel. How Houthis from Yemen and Iran coordinated their strikes in southern part of Israel, and in fact how many parts of central Israel were targeted, include Bnei Barak or including the capital city of Tel Aviv. Clearly, the broader situation remains here that despite Israel maintaining high level of preparedness, high level of vigilance, and in fact a robust missile defense system, civilian injuries are still going on. Infrastructure damage is being suffered in different areas of Israel, and in fact that is a big challenge as far as these cluster ammunition, their usage is concerned. The kind of missiles being used by Iran, that remains a challenge for Israel.
Absolutely, Pranay. Do stay with us. We'll come back to you for more updates on this. Let us also understand the cost of this conflict. How much has been spent so far? How much is going to be spent? And how much can be expected to be the cost of this war? We'll show you all the figures, the money that has been already spent, how much was spent in the initial days, what is the current spending, what is the current expenditure, and the war has still not ended. So how much can be expected to be spent in the coming days? What is this cost of war? Now, this is the staggering cost of conflict, and it's rising by the hour. It's in just the first 100 hours, mind you, just the first 100 hours, the US burned through $3.7 billion. Stretch that to the first 6 days, and the bill jumps to $11.3 billion. So that's from 3.7 to 11.3 in just first 6 days of this conflict. Now, right now, the war machine is running at an estimated $2 billion every single day. So $2 billion is being short spent on this war every day. And that's just the operational cost. It's not the total cost. It's just the operational cost. $2 billion every day. Add to it the equipment losses, already between $2 to $3 billion from destroyed assets, damaged systems, and also the battlefield cost. Now zoom out further. Over just a few weeks, total spending is projected between $20 to $40 billion. That brings the total so far to anywhere between $30 to $70 billion and counting, because the war has still not ended, and we still don't know till when this war will continue. But the bigger picture is even more staggering. The Pentagon is now seeking a massive $200 billion funding push. So what's on the cards? So what's the US plan? And long-term projections, they range from a mind-boggling $100 billion to over $300 billion. This is not just a conflict, but for the US, a rapidly expanding financial drain. Trump administration is literally burning billions on this conflict, and it's still continuing. It's the 5th week. The 2nd month has already begun. Now, what is the impact on the American consumers, on the residents? Now, this is the hidden cost of the war, and Americans are paying for it every single day. As tensions escalate under Trump's war push, fuel prices are already climbing. Gas has jumped from $2.98 to over $4 a gallon, hitting wallets of the ordinary Americans at the pump. They are the ones who are indirectly paying for this war. Crude oil is surging too. Brent now at $115 a barrel, driving up transport and also the production costs. So, of course, if the Brent crude oil prices go up, they will have implications on the day-to-day life also, which drives up the transport and also the production costs. And it does not stop there. Fertilizer prices have spiked by $450 per ton. That means higher farming costs and soon higher food prices on American tables. So the food prices will also increase. Wholesale inflation is already ticking up 0.7% in just 1 month. 1 month of war, and there's already a rise of 0.7% in the inflation. That's a warning sign of broader price rises ahead. From gas stations to grocery stores, the ripple effects are clear. The war is impacting everyday expenditure of American consumers and also their budget. Trump's war, and Americans are footing the bill. They are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the Trump's war. Now, let us also take a look at how the gas prices have surged in the past month since this war began in United States. So US gas prices are surging, and the climb has been sharp and relentless. On February 28th, the first day of the war, Americans were paying just $2.98 per gallon. Within a week of this war, by March 5, prices rose to $3.25. By March 12th, it hit $3.60, a steep jump in just days. The upward trend did not stop there. On March 19, prices were at $3.82, followed by $3.98 on March 26, brushing the $4 mark. Then came the tipping point. On March 30th, gas officially hit $4 per gallon. And by March 31st, it climbed further to $4.02. In just 1 month, prices have surged by over $1. For millions of Americans, it's a daily hit to their budget, and a price they are being forced to pay because they did not choose this war. And hence what we're witnessing in US is there's unrest, there are protests against the Trump administration for this war. And some more more news coming in. A U.S. journalist was kidnapped in Baghdad and a search is underway. This was as per Iraqi officials. An American journalist was kidnapped on Tuesday in Baghdad and Iraqi security forces are pursuing her captors. And the journalist was identified as freelancer Shelly Kittleson by one of the outlets she worked for. A U.S. official blamed the Iran-backed Iraqi militia Kataib Hezbollah for the kidnapping. The Iraqi Interior Ministry confirmed a foreign journalist had been kidnapped but did not give more details. Two Iraqi security officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the case said that the kidnapped journalist is a woman and a U.S. citizen. They said that two cars were involved in the kidnapping, one of which crashed while being pursued near the town of Al-Haswa in Babel province, southwest of Baghdad, and the journalist was then transferred to a second car that fled the scene. So two cars were involved in this abduction, in this kidnapping, and my colleague Ashutosh Mishra is now joining us with more details on this. Ashutosh, shocking news being reported. A U.S. journalist has been kidnapped in Baghdad. The search is underway. Give us more details on this.
Well, indeed, Shelly was prominently reporting across Baghdad on the ongoing situation. In fact, she was also among them to giving account details of how the Shia Iraqi militia, the Iranian proxy, were targeting the American assets and across the tension. So the event that unfolded yesterday, she was in Iraq and two cars. We see all of a sudden from a point, one car came, people coming down literally in the CCTV footage. Two people were seen, they dragged her in, and in that she was taken to another pocket where she was transferred into another car. In fact, as we speak, reportedly what we are hearing from, of course, we are waiting for the another official confirmation that perhaps she has been rescued. So the entire detail of the operation that is yet to come. But these images are literally horrific and scary. And remember that in the Middle East, we are already seeing tension for the journalists. We have seen 3 journalists killed in Lebanon, journalists also killed in Tehran, in the airstrikes by America and Israel. And here in Iraq, another American prominent journalist who was reporting on the ongoing tension was abducted. Now, the purpose of abduction, whether it was she was being an American or an American journalist, she was abducted, that is yet to be ascertained. But for now, the unconfirmed report says the rescue operation was already carried out and finally she has been evacuated. But this is extremely shocking for the cross-journalistic fraternity that in the different critical situation the journalists are reporting. But in Iraq, in Baghdad, it's no more safe. And clearly, that becomes literally hostile by the militia and the different groups working across Baghdad, across Iraq. That this is literally a hostile time for all the journalists who are reporting the ongoing escalation in the Middle East.
Absolutely, Ashutosh, and it says a lot about the current security situation in Iraq right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only in Iraq, as I mentioned, that look, the 3 journalists were killed in airstrike in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon by Israeli airstrike. We have seen journalists also killed in the airstrike, even in Tehran. And here, Shelly, who was very prominent American award-winning journalist who has been constantly reporting. I mean, she was literally staying for a very long in Iraq. This was not 1 or 2 reports. She has been based in camp, literally camping in Iraq, was reporting extensively on the ongoing escalation, including the attacks on the Western assets, including on the victory bases, and also how the Iraq at large, at a population, including the places like Baghdad, how the people are coping up with this situation. And all of a sudden, whether it was provoked, whether it was unprovoked, what could be the motive of the abduction, that is yet to be ascertained. But the way it also is, raises the security question on the security, safety of the civilians, and particularly civilians from the West and in the Western journalists, like the Shelly, that way she was abducted, she was taken from one car to another. And clearly, this looks like there was some motive, some trigger point. This looks like a way more conspired, way more planned and designed in a way, the whole abduction, that they were constantly probably monitoring her movement because she was reporting on different pockets from different pockets. So clearly it looks like the whole conspiracy was designed, was properly planned. She was being monitored, she was being watched and tagged, and exactly how this whole operation of abduction was carried out. Anjali.
Absolutely. And what message were they trying to send out? They must have been knowing that she's a U.S. citizen. Was that the sole reason why she was abducted and kidnapped? Was there a bigger message that they were trying to send out through this kidnapping?
Well, nothing can be ruled out. Of course, being an American citizen, probably to give out a message to America, but more than it looks like the Shelley, constantly the issues that she was reporting, that how the militia, how the different groups in Iraq have turned literally hostile against the defense assets, the military assets of America. All these reports, perhaps the Shia militia, the way remember, if you compare and corroborate everything, that how the assets are being targeted by Iranian groups in different Gulf nations. So that could be one purpose. Probably they would consider the Shelley's reporting were way much biased towards the losses of the Americans and how the Shia militia proxy group have escalated their offensive. Probably that could be one of such factors. So during the conflict, the basic fundamental is always that we know that we cover all the sides without taking sides. And perhaps the militia groups probably have thought the Shelley's reporting would be adverse against them. That could be one reason. But at the same time, the bigger reason, whatever we have seen, remember, all the State Department has issued alert warning for the American nationals, including in Iraq, including in other Gulf nations, that they should evacuate as soon as possible due to ongoing conflict. It is the duty of the journalists, however, we are always on the ground reporting on such situation, and the hostilities are, never expected such kind of, broad daylight abduction.
Absolutely, Ashutosh. Indeed, a shocking news. Do stay with us. We're getting some more news. And let's also take a look at what's happening in India. Commercial LPG prices have been hiked by 195.5 rupees. So that's the latest hike as far as the commercial LPG is concerned. They have been hiked by 195.5 rupees. And this comes amid the surge in the global oil prices linked to the widening West Asia conflict. If we talk about the domestic cooking gas LPG rates, which were last hiked by 60 rupees per 14.2 kg cylinder on March 7, they remain unchanged. So there's no change in the domestic LPG prices. But if you talk about the commercial LPG prices, they have been hiked by 195.5 rupees. The domestic cylinder currently costs 913 rupees per 14.2 kg cylinder in Delhi, and a 19 kg commercial LPG now costs 2,078.50 in Delhi after this latest hike of 195.5 rupees. And the rates were last increased by 114.5 rupees per 19 kg cylinder on March 1st. And now after March 1st, on April 1, we are witnessing the second hike on the commercial LPG rates, which have been hiked by almost by 195.5 rupees. Ashutosh, my colleague, continues to stay with us. Ashutosh, the second hike as far as the commercial LPG is concerned since this war began. Are the consumers in India also bearing the brunt of this West Asia war and paying for it indirectly?
Anjali, it was indeed expected. The first hike we've seen on the 1st of March, and this was anticipating the global tension, the global crisis. Because 28th of February, when the whole escalation started, when this, the bombing took place on Iran, and it was clearly known that there will be retaliation. The retaliation gonna further escalate. So the escalation ladder was quite much expected. And thus we are seeing not 1 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 50. It is nearly 200 rupees, 195.50 rupees per such 19 kg cylinder, the commercial cylinder, where we use the commercial cylinder. In the industries, in the industrial sector, clearly the cost gonna up. At the same time, eateries mostly use, that's the commercial cylinder. Their mandate is to use commercial cylinder. The eateries, so clearly dining outside in restaurant or in hotel is literally gonna cost you up, because the prices are literally now 2,000. And this is the first time perhaps ever a commercial cylinder are gonna cost more than 2,000 rupees, 2,078 for 19 kgs. And of course, there's a clear relief so far. The domestic consumers, which are larger in number and the volume is high of the domestic LPG user. So clearly that's a site of relief. And remember, the petrol diesel prices, they have not been allowed to go up because the government has reduced the excise duty. But you never know, if the prices continue to go up, or there will be imbalance between demand and supply. And whenever there is a geopolitical crisis leading to imbalance between demand and supply, the prices are essentially bound to go up. So today or tomorrow, later or sooner, we will see the direct impact on the users as well. But for now, the eatery is gonna be really high. And as we speak, remember, even the jet fuel, the prices, the ATF prices have also gone up. So clearly that will, the surge on those will reflect directly on the traveling, directly on our tickets. If you're planning vacation, you're planning essential traveling, this is all gonna go up. So commercial cylinders means literally industries, eateries, restaurant, hotel, business, the chain of whole business industry that relies on the supply of the commercial cylinder, there will be essentially a direct impact on that.
Absolutely, Ashutosh. So there's a hike in the commercial LPG prices. This is amid the ongoing West Asia war. Let's take a look at how the prices have changed since this war began on February 28. If we talk about the commercial LPG prices, they were at 1,883 per 19 kg. One cylinder of 19 kg had the price of 1,883 before this war began. Now, there have been two hikes ever since this war began. First one was on March 1st, and now there's another hike that is of 195.5 rupees. And now the prices of a 19 kg cylinder stands at 2,078.5 rupees. So that is what you will have to pay to buy a commercial LPG cylinder weighing 19 kg. Let's also take a look at how the prices have changed of the domestic LPG cylinder. So currently there's no hike. There is a second hike on the commercial LPG cylinder, but there's no hike, no price change as far as the domestic LPG cylinder is concerned. The last hike was on March 7 after this war began. That was of 60 rupees on March 7, and the price of the domestic LPG cylinder currently stands at 913 rupees per 14.2 kg cylinder. And these are the prices in Delhi. So that is how, amid the LPG crisis, the prices are surging. The commercial prices have surged for the second time in 1 month since this war began. Of course, there has been no second hike on the domestic LPG cylinders. They remain unchanged. But the impact of the rise on commercial LPG prices will be faced by the consumers only, because we can expect the hotel and restaurant food prices to also increase with this price increase. In fact, jet fuel prices have also doubled to 2.07 lakh rupees per kiloliter. So the prices of aviation turbine fuel or the jet fuel were more than doubled to a record 2.07 lakh per kiloliter, driven by the surge in global oil prices linked to the widening West Asia conflict. So it's not just the LPG prices that are rising. The jet fuel prices have also more than doubled. Before this war began, it was somewhere around 96,000, but currently it stands at 2.07 lakh per kiloliter, which is even more than double the price, and that is why we can also expect the airfares to go up. So the commercial LPG prices are up. The domestic LPG prices were also increased in the last month by 60 rupees, and now what we're also learning is that the ATF prices are also going up. Of course, this comes amid the oil crisis, the surge in global oil prices, and my colleague Amit Bhardwaj is now joining us with more details on this. Amit, with the surge in jet fuel prices, which have more than doubled in 1 month, now can we also expect the airfares to also again go up?
Obviously, Anjali, the airline operators will have no choice but to increase the airfare. Because until yesterday, if you would remember, we were speaking as to how the Ministry of Civil Aviation is holding consultation with the Petroleum Ministry in order to ensure that the OMCs, the oil manufacturing companies, come to an understanding where the minimum burden or whatever possible burden that can be reduced on the airline operators, in terms of ATF should be done. But however, if you look at these numbers, the kind of surge that has happened today after the revision of the ATF prices, it seems that possibly those consultations did not result into major relief for the airline operators. Because if you look at the global trend, what's happening there, on 27th February, a day before the West Asia conflict started, Iran was started, the average weekly price of ATF was $99 per barrel, and that spiked to $195 per barrel within 4 weeks by March 27. So it was pretty much expected that similar kind of trend will be visible in India as well on 1st of April, that is today. Now that the ATF prices have been revised in India, what we see is that for Delhi, 99,000 was per kiloliter price of ATF in Delhi. That has been spiked to surge to 207K rupees per KL. So that is almost like the global average, global surge that we are witnessing, and hence as far as the Petroleum Ministry consultations are concerned, possibly it did not result into much relief for the airline operators. But will the state governments lower the VAT? That is a big question right now. Back to you.
Absolutely, Amit. Thank you for those details. So the ATF prices or the jet fuel prices have also increased. And what is important to note that they have increased more than double than what they were before this war began. We'll take a look at how there has been a price change in the ATF prices. So before this war began, the earlier price was around 96,638 per kiloliter. Now let's take a look at how much it has now changed. It has more than doubled to, and now it stands at 2,07,341 rupees per kiloliter, which is a surge of 1,10,703 rupees. So this is the price of the jet fuel in India. This is the change that we have witnessed since this war began. Before the war, it was at 96,638 rupees, and now it stands at around 2,07,000, which is even more than double, not just double, even more than double. And this is the price per kiloliter of the jet fuel prices. So of course the air travel, the airfares are going to go up with this exponential increase in the jet fuel prices. So not just the LPG crisis, but there's also a massive surge in the jet fuel prices. They have more than doubled. They stand at 2,07,000, and that is why what can be expected is that the passengers will have to shed more money as far as air travel is now concerned. And with gas prices on the rise, Trump officials discuss feared $150 price for the oil. The White House braces for a potential spike to $150 or even higher as the Iran war chokes supply. White House senior staff and administration officials are discussing the possibility that oil prices climb to a record $150 or more per barrel. Remember, currently it stands at around $115 per barrel, and what the U.S. White House is bracing for a record $150 or even higher per barrel as this Iran war drags into its second month. And that is why they are having discussions on how to tackle the situation. White House officials are looking at the economic effect of the higher prices and are also considering ideas for bringing down those costs, including the deployment of additional emergency powers. So the impact is also being felt in the United States. Gas prices are on the rise, and in fact what they are fearing is that the oil prices may reach $150 per barrel, and that is why the White House is bracing for it, for the record high 150 or even higher price of that as Iran war chokes the supply. They are discussing how to tackle this situation, and they are anticipating and fearing that the prices may go up to $150 per barrel. So West Asia tensions are now triggering a wider energy crisis, and Asia is feeling the heat. The region faces major energy disruption, with countries like China, the Philippines, and also Indonesia among the most affected. Why? Because they are heavily reliant on imported fuel. Shipping data shows the strain clearly. In March, only 196 commodity vessels managed to pass through key routes, a sharp signal of disrupted trade flows. Of these, just 120 were oil and gas tankers, and most were headed eastward, trying to meet Asia's growing demand. But reduced traffic means tighter supply, and tighter supply means rising prices, and that's what we have been witnessing. Fuel and energy costs are now climbing across markets, adding pressure on industries, transport, and also households. If tensions persist, this could evolve into a prolonged energy crunch, hitting energy-dependent economies the hardest. Now, the big question that stares us in the face: is this regional conflict now reshaping the global energy map? And let's also take a look at Iran's energy lifeline, which is now in sharp focus. Now, here is the developments on the crucial island in a nutshell. This small island handles the bulk of Iran's crude oil exports, making it one of the most critical nodes in the global energy supply chain, and that is also why the US is eyeing to seize this island. At the northern edge is Karg Airport, reportedly hit multiple times on March 13. Now, this highlights the island's growing vulnerability. Further south, you're looking at massive oil storage tanks, the heart of Iran's export capacity. Any damage here could severely disrupt oil output. On the eastern coastline, these long jetties are oil export terminals, where tankers load millions of barrels bound for global markets, especially Asia. In simple terms, if Karg Island is hit hard, Iran's oil flow slows and global prices could spike. With tensions rising in West Asia, Karg is becoming a strategic pressure point with worldwide consequences. So the West Asia war has now entered its 33rd day, and cracks within NATO are widening. Hours after key allies France, Spain and Italy refused access to their air bases to the United States. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio slammed the NATO and said that US will re-examine ties with the NATO allies after the war, and added that no one can impede US mission. He, however, expressed confidence in a possibility of a direct meeting between US and Iran at some point. Earlier, Trump slammed UK and European partners, asking them to fight for themselves. Trump also told Britain to go get its own oil and that US will not be there to help UK anymore. He also lambasted France for blocking US military flights, warning the US will remember the lack of cooperation after taking out what he called the butcher of Iran. Meanwhile, US War Secretary Pete Hegseth highlighted the strain on alliances, noting that while NATO decisions ultimately rest with the president, and that the conflict has exposed the limits of allied commitment, with support requests often met with roadblocks or hesitations.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others. And yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing and overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out, and ultimately it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is complete.
And my colleague Pranay Upadhyay is with us from Israel. Pranay, how does the US see the role of allies in this war? It is clear that President Trump is miffed with the European allies and would like the Gulf allies to join the war efforts, at least foot part of the bill for this war.
Until that happens,
obviously, businessman turned politician President Donald Trump loves transaction. For him, every foreign policy move should involve some kind of a give and take. And in fact, he wants to show to his support base that he's the one who is capable of cutting out the best deal. He's the one who can get best deal for the United States. And definitely, with the current state of partnership with his NATO allies and with the European countries, he is quite miffed with the stance of these NATO allies and these European partners, be it United Kingdom, France, Spain, Italy, and especially the noises coming from these European states that this is not our war, and the unwillingness expressed by these countries to host US military operation or allowing US military to use their airspace or those joint bases for carrying out any operation in West Asia. So clearly, President Donald Trump did not like this idea, and I think he has shared his anger, his unhappiness through his Truth Social post as well. And he said that we are fighting. In fact, the United States is fighting for the priorities and for the requirement of other countries. However, these countries have been thankless and they did not reciprocate, and US will remember this thing. And as far as the Gulf countries are concerned, I think President Donald Trump is interested in these Gulf countries, these GCC countries, to foot the bill. How that billing can happen, we do not know as yet. And I think President Donald Trump might come up with some kind of idea that, in terms of net security guarantee with the United States provides to these countries, probably he would want to have some kind of charge or some kind of a levy on these countries. And we have to see that, how things pan out. Because if you see the net scenario currently, that these countries are being targeted because they are hosting US bases there. In fact, this remains the Iranian argument. In fact, Iran has been saying that we are targeting these GCC partner countries or GCC Muslim countries because these countries are hosting US bases.
Absolutely right, Pranay. Thank you so much for joining us with all those details and for that context. So the United States is clearly miffed with its NATO allies, with Marco Rubio even claiming that they need to re-examine their ties with the NATO allies. With that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thank you for watching India Today. More news and updates on this West Asia war will continue on the other side. Keep watching India Today.
Character, the taste of success.
This town has completely devastated now. All the logistics what were here get evacuated from this place, including the petrol pumps, gas stations. Everything has been bombed during last 2 days. Ashraf Ani for India Today in Nabatia, South Lebanon.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Emergency responders in Haifa assessed the damage on Monday after Iran fired waves of missiles at Israel. The Israeli military said 2 drones from Yemen had also been intercepted, and that Lebanon's Hezbollah had fired rockets at Israel as well. The attacks came as a defiant Tehran called U.S. peace proposals, quote, excessive, unrealistic, and illogical. But White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt on Monday said that despite all of the public posturing, talks with Iran are going well.
President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Earlier, Trump, in a Truth Social post, warned that Iran's energy plants and oil wells would be obliterated if it did not open the Strait of Hormuz. Levitt also said that Trump would be interested in calling on Arab countries to pay for the cost of the Iran war.
It's an idea that I know that he has and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
Iran has fired on Arab Gulf states during the conflict, and war has been reignited between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Israeli military on Monday said it had begun striking Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut, and an Israeli strike hit a residential building in Beirut's southern suburbs. An industrial building and a fuel tanker at Israel's oil refineries in Haifa was hit by debris from an intercepted missile, according to authorities. Flames and thick smoke were seen billowing from inside the refinery complex. It was not immediately clear where the missile was fired from.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Co-powered by Tata Motors. Commercial vehicles better always.
Panasonic AC, इंडिया का कैप्टन कूल.
very good morning to all our viewers. You're watching The Burning Question on India Today with me, Anjali Pandey. Our top focus continues to remain on the West Asia war that is now in its 5th week. And right now we're getting some breaking news. 3 people dead and a Shia mosque heavily damaged in US-Israeli strike on Zanjan. It's a city in Iran. And this is as per Iranian media reports. Iranian state television broadcast images of extensive damage after a US-Israeli airstrike hit a Shia mosque in the northwestern city of Zanjan early morning on Tuesday. These are the visuals that have been that were broadcast by the Iranian media and showing extensive damage because of the strikes that were carried out by the US and Israel. Now, the report said that 3 people were killed in this attack. So 3 casualties are also being reported. There you see huge fire after the strikes by US and Israel. And the attack caused widespread destruction to the Shia prayer hall known as Husseiniya, and large numbers of rescue teams were seen at the attack site. In Iran, authorities say more than 1,900 people have been killed since the start of the war, while 19 have been reported dead in Israel. The United States and Israel have been striking a wide variety of targets, including leadership figures in Iran, military bases, missile and air defense sites, and positions of the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard and also its volunteer force, the Basij. Iran has responded with drone and missile fire targeting Israel and nearby Gulf Arab countries. But that is the latest that is being reported. This is the latest strike carried out by US and Israel. This is in the city of Zanjan. It's in Iran, where a Shia mosque was heavily damaged in these strikes. And what we are also learning is that 3 people have been killed in this attack. So these are the images of the extensive damage after a US-Israeli airstrike hit a Shia mosque in the northwestern city of Zanjan in Iran. This happened on Tuesday. The report said that 3 people were killed in this attack. The attack has caused widespread destruction to the Shia prayer hall, as can be seen in these visuals, which is known as Husseiniya, and large number of rescue teams were seen at the attack site. Of course, the extent of damage is clearly visible. The prayer hall, the Shia mosque, has been completely destroyed in this attack. That shows the scale of how brutal this attack was, the strike was. 3 people have been killed. The prayer hall has been completely damaged, and there's rubble all around. It has been reduced to rubble. A large number of rescue teams were seen at the attack site after there was fire and destruction at the Shia mosque. 3 people have also been killed, so 3 casualties are being reported, and these are the visuals of the aftermath of the Shia mosque attack. This mosque was in Zanjan. It's a northwestern city in Iran that was struck in US-Israeli strikes, and you can see huge fire, thick plume of smoke also rising, and 3 people have lost their lives. Some more news coming in. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister's public appearance amid war. Arakchi joins protests on Tehran streets. President Pezeshkian joins celebrations on streets. So Masoud Pezeshkian made an unannounced appearance among people attending public gatherings on the night of Farvardin 12. He joined the crowd on the 30th night of the public events held in support of the country and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The gathering also marked Farvardin 12, the anniversary of the establishment of the Islamic Republic following the Iranian Revolution. Marching openly in the streets of Tehran, Iran's President Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi participated in the pro-regime support demonstrations. So these are the visuals of the Iranian President and also the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, their public appearance amid the war, and they joined protests on the Tehran streets. In fact, they also joined the celebrations on the streets. It was Farvardin 12 that was being celebrated, and Pezeshkian joined the crowd on the 30th night of public events held in support of the country and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The gathering also marked Farvardin 12, which is the anniversary of the establishment of the Islamic Republic following the Iranian Revolution.
دیدن این مردم واقعا یک روحیه بسیار بزرگی رو به همه میده و من هم یه قطره از همین مردم هم بیام وسط اینها و مشارکت بکنم در این حرکت میدانی و همین که خودم روحیه بگیرم و هم واقعا لذت ببرم از این وحدت و انسجام مردمی.
خب چطور دیدین؟
And some more news coming in. Thousands of additional U.S. troops are heading to the West Asia as the Trump administration has insisted that progress has been made in talks with Iran. The aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush deployed Tuesday and is slated to go to the Middle East along with 3 destroyers, 2 U.S. officials have said. And the carrier strike group consists of more than 6,000 sailors. It comes as thousands of soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division also have begun arriving in the Middle East, and that's the latest update. That's what is unfolding. Thousands of troops from the United States are now heading to the Middle East, while the majority of those troops are part of a rotation of forces planned before the war. Some are among roughly 1,500 paratroopers. The Trump administration decided to surge into the region last week. So thousands of additional U.S. troops are now heading to the Middle East as the Trump administration has insisted that progress has been made in talks with Iran. And remember, Pete Hegseth also stated in his briefing yesterday that boots on the ground is not off the table. That is also that is still on the cards. And now we're learning that thousands of additional U.S. troops are also heading to the Middle East. And remember, it comes as thousands of soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division have begun arriving in the Middle East, and while the majority of those troops are part of a rotation of forces planned before the war, some are among roughly 1,500 paratroopers. The Trump administration decided to surge into the region last week. So now thousands of additional U.S. troops are also heading towards Middle East, and as the Trump administration has insisted that progress has been made in talks with Iran, and now has also threatened to escalate the war if a deal is not reached soon. And a month-long war that sees no de-escalation. Here are the top 10 live updates from the war theatre. Let's take a look. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says negotiations are ongoing but warns Iran must act wisely and cut a deal or face intensifying conflict. He stressed that the U.S. is keeping all military options open, with Donald Trump not bluffing in his approach. Hegseth added that U.S. strikes are increasing pressure on Iran and the coming days will be decisive. Abbas Araghchi says Israel is targeting civilian infrastructure and warns that Iran will strongly retaliate against any aggression. He added that Iran respects Saudi Arabia as a brotherly nation, while asserting its actions are aimed at hostile forces and calling for U.S. troops to leave the region. Early Tuesday, a massive explosion rocked the area outside the central Iranian city of Isfahan. Footage shared by local groups shows huge fireballs and secondary blasts consistent with ammunition igniting. NASA fire tracking satellites suggest the strike occurred near Mount Sofe, a site believed to house military positions. Iranian authorities have confirmed the attack, though details on casualties remain unclear.
To ensure the safety and security of the peacekeepers at all times.
And smoke is pouring into the sky over Haifa after debris from an intercepted missile struck a local refinery and fuel tanker. Fire crews rushed to the scene as flames and thick black smoke engulfed the industrial site. Authorities are monitoring the situation closely to prevent further damage. And in Iran, there are 3 main ground forces: the Army Ground Force with about 350,000 personnel, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Ground Force with around 150,000, and the Basij Force, a voluntary paramilitary group with over 5 lakh members. The Basij operates under the IRGC not only for security but also for crisis management, disaster relief and public health support, including during the COVID-19 pandemic. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says that its advanced air defense systems have shot down 2 Lucas attack drones, one over Bandar Abbas and another near Minab, as well as a US-made MQ-9 Reaper drone near Isfahan. Another Lucas drone was reportedly destroyed over Kashmir Island, according to military statements. The intercepts are part of ongoing defensive operations amid rising regional tensions. China and Pakistan have called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gulf and wider Middle East, urging peace talks to start as soon as possible. Their joint proposal also emphasizes the protection of civilians, restoration of normal navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, and safe passage for commercial and civilian ships. The two countries stressed adherence to international law and the UN Charter in resolving the conflict. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz announced plans to establish a buffer zone in southern Lebanon up to the Litani River following clashes with Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces. The IDF will maintain security control, destroy weapons and bar the return of evacuated residents until northern communities are deemed safe. Katz said homes near the border could be destroyed following models used in Gaza, as Israel holds Hezbollah responsible for threats to its citizens and UN peacekeepers. Israeli forces have claimed that they struck several rocket launchers in southern Lebanon used by Hezbollah. The thermal footage shows strikes carried out by the Israeli forces. Iran has launched missile strikes across central Israel, with at least 9 people injured in Tel Aviv as sirens rang out and emergency services rushed to the scene. The attacks mark a significant increase and escalation in this ongoing war. And let me now go across to Abha Bakaya for all the business and market updates. Abha, over to you.
Look, this investment Guru tips will double your money. Just claim the offer.
Double your money from any random group. Pay attention. Promising double returns, they'll lure you in tight. Unverified groups will send fake tips overnight, emptying your pockets before you can fight.
Well said, well said, well said.
SEBI and NSE advise consult only SEBI registered advisors and make payments only to verified accounts or UPI IDs. An investor awareness initiative by SEBI and NSE.
Presented by National Stock Exchange. Co-presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
Good morning and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Let's take you to the headlines this morning. Get ready for a big increase in air ticket prices. Jet fuel prices more than doubled from today, crossing the 2 lakh per kiloliter level for the first time ever. Prices of commercial LPG cylinders also raised by nearly 200 rupees. Asian equities surge on yet another statement by Donald Trump, who says the U.S. could end its military campaign against Iran in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Nasdaq up nearly 4% last night. White House announces Trump to address the nation on the Iran war tomorrow morning, or that's early India time. Higher securities transaction tax for the equity F&O segment kicks in from today. STT on futures up 150%, on options up 50%. Analysts expect a 20 to 30% fall in derivatives trade. Amount from buyback of shares to also be taxed as capital gains from today. Income tax returns forms for FY 25-26 are out. You can go ahead and fill your returns immediately. The big change is in ITR 1, which now allows reporting income from up to 2 house properties. Massive job cuts by Oracle in India. Reports say it's already fired 12,000 employees, 40% of its country's strength, with another round of job cuts likely within a month. The move comes even as it invests billions in AI data centers. All right, let's kick off with taking a look at the market setup. It's continuing to look weak on the back of all that's happening and the increasing turbulence in West Asia. Tehran being bombed this morning as we speak. On top of that, we're seeing that spiraling crude price and now the ATF price hike, and that's really going to be the big focus this morning. Remember, the STT on FNO also kicking in from today. So that's a huge melee of factors that are going to be impacting the market. Let me welcome in Shailendra Bhatnagar as well this morning. Shell, first up, let's take a look at the setup and how it's looking, because a whole lot of factors that are going to be affecting the markets, even though in pre-open currently we're looking steady, but there are fears that we will close on the lower end of the scale later on this afternoon.
Good morning, Abha. I think today's close will be one of the most instructive signals that the market will send. Remember, Mr. Trump addresses the world at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow, and a whole host of negative news, including the strongest bearish rollovers on the Nifty ever, start into April. Today it's the first day of the new financial year, as also the FNO expiry. So if markets stop falling on bad news, then you have some kind of a bottom in place, but only time will tell. For today, the CPSE and the pharma index look good. Aster DM, Oro Pharma, IPCA, and of course granules are stocks on the long side, plus metals, and these are all intraday positions that you should take advice from your financial and technical advisor. But today is a critical day, Abha. Everything that is negative is right in front of us, including jet oil fuel. But let's see what the Nifty tells you. At the moment, 2% higher.
Okay, I mean, right now what you're looking at is, you know, everyone hoping that Trump is going to come out and actually say something about the war closing. But remember, just as we speak, we've got further news of bombs hitting Tehran. We'll dive more into that news in a moment. But first, let me take a look at the ATF fuel price hike. Airfares are now going to be surging and passengers will be hit. Jet fuel prices now crossing that 2 lakh per kiloliter mark. This is for the first time ever. I'm going to actually go across straight to Karishma on this. Karishma, take us through the details, the kind of hike we're looking at here, and the implications, particularly for passengers, of course, and also for aviation companies.
It does not come as a good news. It was well on the expected lines, though, because in the month of March, we had already noticed that the jump from Feb 28 to that of March 28 was beyond 45%. So the expectation was that probably the ATF prices will also see a jump of another 50%. But to go beyond 100% is not a good news. It's a code red situation because airlines across the world are already battling with a lot of turbulence because of airspace closures and rerouting, which has already added to their operational costs. And now hike in jet fuel prices only makes it way more difficult for them to operationally manage in the current cost dynamics. So certainly expect that there is going to be a major hike in airfares because jet fuel is about, say, 30 to 40% of cost economics of an airline, and especially in India, we have already started to see the change. Indigo and Air India and Akasa Air had already imposed a jet surcharge. Indigo and Air India had also announced about this last month, but we are expecting that this could further increase. But however, this increase may not come immediately because airlines are also want to be conscious of the fact that people don't drop out of booking tickets, especially on demand sectors.
Okay. Karishma, thanks for that. I'm just going to track market opening, and right now we're in the green, 22,899 on the Nifty. Sensex also trending higher on hopes that Trump will call for a de-escalation. It's pure sentiment on which we're riding right now, but it's looking incredibly fragile given the news flow. And the ATF price hike is another trigger that we're tracking for you this morning. This is going to be the biggest hit, especially for you as a passenger, although as Karishma mentioned, it may take a little while before it starts to reflect. 2% up on the index this morning, advances at about 2,000 shell. For all of the nervousness or the negative factors that are prevalent right now, the market today is kicked off on a strong note. I'm not sure how long this will last, but currently we're looking at a pretty strong market breadth on opening.
Absolutely. It's 10:1, Abha. Almost 2,300 stocks in the green, only 82 in the red. Almost all indices are up more than 2%. The top gainer is the Nifty PSU banking index. Remember, the maximum pain was in the Nifty bank as also the PSU banking setup. But massive rally at the start. What Mr. Trump has also said overnight is that I don't care about you as far as France and UK are concerned. You never helped us. If you want oil from Hormuz, go get it yourself. So there is a climb down most likely happening tomorrow evening. Remember, US futures are up dramatically and the markets shut with massive gains yesterday evening. So that's probably something that we are looking for. Bond yields are down, and these are indications that risk on trade is coming back in the market. How long will it last? I don't know. But for the moment, Abha, you and I should enjoy this bounce. I believe it is because of our interview that we did with Mr. Madhukela and Mr. Shankar Sharma over the weekend, when they said bad news will stop affecting prices. That's the bounce.
That recognizes that terrorists have no respect for the
They did. They are also extremely positive. And if you look at the DII figures coming in, I think, Shell, you'll also have them with you. I think they're looking phenomenal right now. So clearly that nervousness, we've seen FIs pull out, but DIIs are looking like they're making a comeback. So I'm just trying to pull up those numbers for you. But yes, we've got Nifty up about 500 points in early trade, Sensex up 1,600 points, all major indices in the green. And also, I'm just going to pull up those DI figures for you just now in a minute and take you through it. There you have it. DIs by 1.43 lakh crores in March. On Monday's DI bought about 14,894 crores. That's the strongest support that we've actually seen in 1.5 years. So while FIs are continuing to sell, and we've seen about 1.23 lakh crores in March, about 11,163 crores just on Monday, DIIs, and look at those flows coming in. And that shows you the kind of conviction that's still in the market. Looking at about 14,894 crores, strongest support coming in. That's just the Monday figure. That's the strongest support coming in just 1.5 years. That's just phenomenal. Avinash Gorakhsakar also joining us this morning. Avinash, clearly the India story seems to be intact. While there may have been an overall leveling out on the index, as we were just discussing, we've got the domestic institutions coming in and coming in strong.
Yeah.